I'm Zack Aitken, and welcome back to Crimson Tide Today. Today, we're going to be talking defense, and Alabama's defense has the chance to be one of the biggest strengths of this football team in 2026. There's size up front, a completely new look at inside linebacker, and a secondary that might be as talented and as deep as anyone in college football. But who are the players that are going to make this defense go? What are the biggest position battles? And just how good can Kane Womack's defense be this upcoming season? Today, we're going to be breaking down the entire projected Alabama defense, in my opinion, position by position, right here on Crimson Tide Today. If you're a Bama fan, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments which defensive player you think will have the biggest season in 2026. Well, let's go ahead and dive into it. When I look at this defense, I think there's a lot to be excited about. There's size up front, there's athleticism at linebacker, and the secondary, it might be the deepest and most talented position group in the entire team. So let's go position by position, starting with the big guys up front. So first, let's talk about the edge positions and the defensive tackles. In Kane Womack's 4-2-5 defense, the two edge spots, they're a little different. You have the Wolf on one side and the Bandit on the other. At Wolf, I'm projecting Yanze Pierre. Pierre, he's a redshirt junior at 6'3" and 253 pounds, and I think he has the chance to become one of the most important players on this defense and on the team as a whole. The biggest thing Pierre brings is his athleticism. He's explosive enough to get around the edge, but he also has the size and the strength to hold up against the run. And Alabama, it needs more production from its pass rush this season. You can have the best secondary in America, and Alabama may very well have that, but eventually someone's going to get open if the quarterback just has all day to throw. I feel like that's why Pierre could be so important. If he can consistently create pressure without Alabama having to bring the extra defenders, it's going to make everything Kane Womack wants to do defensively so much easier. He's going to be looking to build off his strong 2025 season where he recorded 8 sacks and 14 and a half tackles for loss. On the opposite side, I have Devin Tompkins at Bandit. And Tompkins, he gives you a completely different body type than Pierre. He's 6'5" and 298 pounds. I mean, that's basically a defensive tackle playing out on the edge. And that's what makes this Bandit position so interesting. I mean, Tompkins, he gives Alabama physical presence on the edge against the running game, but he also has enough athletic ability to create problems as a pass rusher. Having Pierre on one side and Tompkins on the other gives Alabama two different body types for players for an offense to deal with. Then we move to the inside. My two projected defensive tackles are London Simmons and Terrence Green. Simmons, he's a sophomore at 6'3" and 303 pounds, and I think he's one of the young defensive linemen that Alabama fans should be excited about. He has the size to hold up inside, but there's also some quickness to his game. That's important in this defense because Alabama doesn't just need defensive tackles who can occupy blockers. You need guys who can penetrate. You want guys who can disrupt plays before they even develop. And Simmons, he has the physical tools to be that type of player. Next to him, I have Terrence Green. Green is a senior at 6'5" and 319 pounds. So now we're talking about some serious size in the middle. Green's strength is going to be his ability to take up space and make life difficult for offensive lines in the running game. When you combine him with Simmons, you're getting a great combination of size and power with Green, and then Simmons, he can provide some additional quickness and some disruption as well. And the depth behind these guys, it's going to matter too. Alabama has other defensive linemen who are going to be wanting to make contributions because you're going to want guys to be able to rotate in this system. Isaiah Fega, he's one of those names to watch on the inside. And on the edge, Alabama has the young talent that's going to have opportunities to earn snaps behind Pierre and Tompkins. The reality is you can't play SEC football with just 4 defensive linemen. You're going to need a rotation. You want to keep guys fresh during the fourth quarter. But if Pierre, Simmons, Green, and Tompkins are your starting 4, I think Alabama has the potential to be a much more disruptive unit up front this year. And if the pass rush can take a step forward, watch out. Let's talk some inside linebacker and see what we have going over there. And this may be one of the more interesting position groups on the entire defense. Alabama had to replace a ton of experience here from last year. Deontay Lawson, Justin Jefferson, and Nakai Hill-Green, they're all gone. So those were Alabama's top 3 off-ball linebackers, and there was a major need at this position to be addressed in the offseason. That's why landing Caleb Woodson out of the transfer portal, it was such a big deal for this staff. Woodson, he's my first projected starter at inside linebacker. At 6'3" and 238 pounds, he comes to Alabama after being a 2-year starter at Virginia Tech. He recorded 151 tackles during his time in Blacksburg, so we're not talking about somebody who's just simply talented. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's played a lot of meaningful college football. And I think Woodson also has the chance to be the alpha in the middle of this defense. When you look back at some of the great Alabama defenses, there was almost always somebody in the middle who set the tone. I mean, a physical linebacker, a communicator, a guy who everyone else could rally around. Woodson has that opportunity to become that player for this team. His athleticism, it also fits what Kane Womack wants from his linebackers. In a 4-2-5 defense, your inside linebackers can't just be downhill run defenders. I mean, these guys have to be able to play in space, they have to be able to cover, they have to blitz, and they have to chase down quarterbacks. And Woodson has the versatility to do those things. Next to him, I'm projecting QB Reese. Reese is a redshirt sophomore at 6 foot even and 229 pounds. And while Woodson brings the experience, I feel like Reese brings a little bit of athletic upside to the position. He's a little more compact than Woodson, but this guy can move, and that's going to be important. Think about the offenses Alabama sees in the SEC. You're dealing with mobile quarterbacks. You're dealing with running backs who can catch the football out of the backfield. You're facing a lot of RPO game. I mean, you're just dealing with offenses who are constantly trying to create mismatches in space. Your linebackers, they have to be able to run, and I feel like that's where Reese can provide value. But I don't think that competition ends with Woodson and Reese. Luke Metz, he's another name that I would keep an eye on. Metz has an opportunity to push for playing time, and Alabama is going to need more than just two linebackers. They're going to need at least three inside linebackers that they trust because injuries happen. Different opponents, they require different personnel. And somebody could just simply play well enough in fall camp that Kane Womack has to find a role for him on Saturdays. Woodson, he does feel like the safest projection because of his experience. The question is ultimately who establishes himself next to him. Right now, I'm going to go with Reese, but that competition is going to be very important. And if Alabama gets strong linebacker play behind an improved defensive front, it sets us up for what can be the strength of this entire football team, and that's going to be the secondary. There may not be another position group that on Alabama's roster where I'm more confident. Start at cornerback. Zabian Brown, he's one of my starters. Brown, he's 6 foot even and 194 pounds, and his biggest strength that he's already been through the battles. I mean, he's played a lot of meaningful snaps, and he understands what SEC football looks like. In Alabama, they can put him on the outside on an island and feel comfortable with what we're getting. Opposite of Brown is Dejon Lee. And Lee, he's one of the most physically fascinating cornerbacks in all of college football. He's 6'4" and 204 pounds. I mean, think about that for a second. We're talking about a 6'4" corner. The length, that creates all kind of problems for receivers, and he can also challenge bigger receivers at the line of scrimmage. When the ball is in the air, he has the physical tools to compete at the catch point. If Lee continues developing, I mean, his ceiling is extremely high. In Alabama, they have some depth behind these two. Chuck McDonald III, he's another corner that I believe can play. Carmelo O'Neal, he gives Alabama another option after coming in through the transfer portal. And Jordan Edmonds, he's a young player who I'm excited to watch develop. He showed some flashes during the A-Day game, including 3 tackles, and he had 2 pass breakups. So if somebody goes down, Alabama shouldn't be immediately panicking when it comes to the cornerback position. But then you get over to the Husky. And I've got Red Morgan starting there. Morgan, he's a junior at 6 foot even and 189 pounds. And the Husky, it's such an important position in this defense because you're essentially asking the player to do a little bit of everything in the secondary. Sometimes he's covering in the slot, sometimes he's fitting the run, and sometimes he's blitzing. I mean, he's just essentially functioning like another safety on the field, and that requires a lot of intelligence and versatility. And that's what I like about Morgan's game. He's an aggressive football player who isn't afraid to come downhill and make a tackle. At 189 pounds, he's obviously not an inside linebacker, but he plays with the physicality you want with somebody who's going to be spending a lot of time around the box. And then we move over to the safety position. This is where Alabama could be really special. Keon Sabb and Bray Hubbard are my projected starters, and Keon Sabb is a redshirt junior at 6'1" and 208 pounds, and he's experienced, he's physical, and he gives Alabama a veteran presence on the back end. One of Sabb's biggest strengths is his versatility. I mean, he can help in coverage, he can play downhill, and because of his experience, you trust him to understand what the offense is trying to do. Next to him is Bray Hubbard. Hubbard is a senior at 6'2" and 217 pounds, and I just love the physicality that he brings to the position. He's a bigger safety who isn't afraid to get involved against the run. When you have Sabb and Hubbard together, I mean, you're talking about two guys that are very experienced players on the back end. Especially with this defense, that definitely matters. Alabama, they're going to have talented younger players rotating around them, and I think there's more depth at safety position as well. I mean, Drake Kirkpatrick Jr., he gives Alabama another defensive back who's been in the program for a couple of years, and there's younger guys who are also going to be continuing for snaps because the versatility in the secondary, it's going to give Kane Womack options. I mean, you can change personnel, you can move guys around, and you can create creative pressure packages as well. I just keep coming back to the pass rush because it's so important. Because if Alabama's front four can create pressure, this secondary becomes more dangerous this season. I mean, think about being an opposing quarterback facing this defense. You've got Yonze Pierre coming off one edge, you've got Devin Tompkins coming off the other, and then you got Simmons and Greens creating pressure from the inside. And then turn around, you have to throw into a secondary that features Xavier Brown, Dejon Lee, Red Morgan, Keon Sabb, and Bray Hubbard. That's a very difficult combination to face. When I look at this defense as a whole, I see three different position groups that are going to be at different stages. Up front, I see a lot of upside. Alabama needs more pass rush production this year, but the physical tools are definitely there. At inside linebacker, I see some uncertainty because of everything Alabama lost, but Caleb Woodson, he gives the Tide an experienced centerpiece to build around. And in the secondary, I see a group that has the chance to be the best in college football. If these three levels can come together, this defense can become the identity of Alabama's football team in 2026. And if the defensive front takes a step forward, I think it's capable of taking. Kane Womack is going to have a lot of different ways to make life miserable for opposing offenses this fall. So when you put it all together, I think Alabama has the pieces to field one of the better defenses in all of college football this season. But I want to hear from you. Which position group are you most confident in? Which player do you think is the big breakout player on this defense? And is there anyone I left out that you think will be a major role in this season? Drop your comments down below in the comment section. I would love to hear from you guys. And if you enjoyed the show, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to Crimson Tide today, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our Alabama football coverage throughout fall camp and into the 2026 season. Thanks for watching, and as always, roll Tide.